Oh, there she goes. This time it came out on the right side. Nice. Hey guys, we're back. Now that we're waiting for cams, we're just gonna work on some stuff we've been thinking about for a while, and that's the coil covers. So these are the ones that we welded. We sanded them, bonded them to make sure they're smooth. We're going to attempt to make a forged carbon fiber part out of this. So we have some melamine sheets that we're gonna use to create the box. We have some wax. We have some clay that we're gonna use to fill this to make the molds. And we have some epoxy that we're going to be using to create the mold. So we're going to make the two halves to make a compression.
Am I a joke to you?
Mold for the forged carbon. So if this works out, it's going to be really cool. So let's get started. All right, so we're going to start by making the top half of the mold. So we're going to fill all the backside. And we're going to create like a 1/2 inch maybe ledge so we can rest this. When you make a mold for this compression forged carbon process, you gotta create this piston effect. So you have to build the wall underneath the part. So we're gonna start by filling this with the clay, and we'll put it on the sheet, and hopefully it works. This is the first time we're both trying this, so.
So it's been setting for a couple days, but it didn't really get fully hardened, so we think either the epoxy is bad or we have to mix better. So we're going to try to get it out of the mold and see if we could save the part.
What the f is this piece of shit?
Alright, so we're on attempt number 2 of making the mold. We got some few lessons learned from the first one. This is the first one. It's not fully set up. We think we didn't mix the epoxy enough, so it's sticky and it's kind of flexible. So we think if we just mix more, it'll help with that. Another thing we saw is there's like some air bubbles that got trapped in here, and we think this actually came from there was an air pocket underneath the part, and as this heats up, when it sets, it actually expanded that air and pushed it into the mold. So what we did was added a vent hole to the bottom of the mold, so that way it'll push any air out. That'll help with that. Another thing we did was improve the finish, just make it a little more glossy, so when we release the mold, it will be less likely to stick. We'll have mold release, of course, but hopefully that will help with getting the mold split apart. But we're going to set this back on here, reset it up like we did before, and pour in new epoxy. Well, that didn't work. We poured too much at one time. It got too hot, melted everything. So we're going to do it slow and steady and pour layers at a time. So we're going to thinking about doing 5 to 6 layers. We already got one layer down in here. It's not getting hot or anything. It looks like it should work. So we'll let this dry up and then pour another layer on top. All right, so we got the last pour in. I think we had a total of 6 pours in here. So there's gonna be 6 layers. We could go ahead and split this apart, take off the surrounding pieces. Hopefully it splits well. So let's see what it looks like.
There she goes. Got it. So there it is. Part this out. So the wax did work. It looks like it peeled some paint off. We're gonna have to maybe put a little bit more wax on there, but there she is. It's pretty good. Look at it from this side too. This actually, the detail on this is pretty good too.
Yeah.
Surprisingly.
So now we have to make the other half, but
side.
this worked really well actually.
So forged carbon coil covers coming your way real soon.
3 days later.
All right, so the first half of our mold is complete. There it is. We redid this half, as you can see, with a different material. So last time we used normal epoxy and it came out okay, but it's a little flexible. We can twist this with our hands. And after doing a little bit of research, we found this company, Easy Composites. They sell this tool cast epoxy that's meant for this kind of application. And we decided to go ahead and buy the right material just so that everything works. So we found this local store that sells a variation of what they sell in Easy Composites. It's called Epoxy Cast. We got the hardener, slow release, just because it's our first time doing this, so we wanted to give ourselves some time. We got some mold release spray on this time, and so far it's working pretty well.
Yeah, this time we're gonna leave the part in there. So yeah. This one we took out just to make sure, you know, all our release is okay and everything. But to do it properly, you leave the part in. We're gonna skim around here, make sure we have no voids. Then when we fill this up with epoxy, it'll give us our male side and female side. Then we'll pour in the carbon, the epoxy, smash these 2 pieces together, and hopefully have a beautiful part at the end of it.
So we're gonna get started on building up the box again, applying mold release everywhere, and pouring the second half of the mold.
We got the mold all poured, so it takes about 24 hours for this to set up. So we'll be back tomorrow and hopefully we get the 2 halves of the mold to split apart.
Here, try it. Okay, there. Woo. Wow. That worked pretty good.
Do we have any voids?
I think so. It's splitting, right?
It's splitting. before the paint
So
was
that's
coming out,
pretty
so that
good.
is.
Try it again. That's what you want, guys. All right, so the mold is ready. We're letting it rest. We already applied mold release to both halves. It's all prepped. We have our Walmart forged carbon, and we have our resin here. So we're gonna start mixing everything and making the first part. See if the molds actually work this time. All right, so we decided to move over to the press because we were having a hard time with the clamps. It's all ready to go. We have plenty of epoxy puking out from everywhere. It's fully closed out. So now we're just gonna let this sit here for 24 hours, come back tomorrow and try and release this. Hopefully the mold splits.
Tomorrow.
There we go, the most important part of the whole build.
Will it split? That's the question.
You can see it's all oozed out.
Let's see.
Yeah, it's moving now. It's moving. Yeah, I can start. Oh, another one. Oh, there she goes. There she goes. Ready?
I think she's coming now.
Oh yeah, yeah.
All right, ready? Here we go. Oh, I got stuck on the wrong side, but
Okay.
oh, that sure looks pretty good.
Okay.
If I say so myself.
Okay. Okay.
Oh, okay.
Oh shit. All right.
So this is like the.
So that, see, because I hammered on here first. So we put these ejector locations
Yeah,
and I hammered there right away and it must have just popped out.
Yeah.
Because there's not very much intricate detail on this side. There's just these. And then the other side has like 6 of these.
Man, that's
So
too bad because
we didn't put the pins on that side.
Yeah, we
So
might
we'll
have
have
to
to
do
do
that
what we
for the
did
next
last
one.
time. You know, with the end mill
Oh
go
yeah,
through.
I guess because the backside doesn't matter. Did they even forge it? Probably just put it in there. Oh, it's coming. It's coming out. It's coming out. Well, I'm lifting up here.
So it's a draft problem. So we had a small draft issue. It looks like it broke the mold a little here. So I think if we could salvage
So
this
that's why it
maybe
pulled.
by building. Yeah, that's
I mean,
why
we
here
don't need
was.
this anymore, right? This part. I
Yeah.
mean, unless this part doesn't come out to. I mean, it looks.
How does it feel? Does it feel?
It feels pretty light. I mean, compared to. Yeah, it's definitely lighter. Here's the original. Here's the carbon part. So are we ready for the second half? Or the other cover?
I think I mean, we know what we messed up, so
Draft angles.
yeah, draft angle was one,
Sure.
which, I mean, not too bad.
No,
we
no,
only
I'd
focused
say-
on this one, right?
Yeah.
We should have.
We also learned that you're supposed to mix a lot more epoxy than what you're supposed to. Like the right ratio is 60-40. 60
Yeah, so
carbon.
this part is supposed to have 60-40% in it. 60% carbon, 40% epoxy. So when we were watching the video, the Easy Composites video, we said, oh, okay, we'll mix up.
We mixed 40%
We mixed
epoxy.
40% epoxy. We're like, this doesn't seem like a much. I mean,
No, I mean it was
you
very.
guys saw
it was
like here.
this much. Yeah.
We put it all in, we compressed it, nothing came out. We rewatched the Easy Composite video because we're like, something's wrong here. We were using all the clamps we had. It wasn't smashing.
It wasn't closing all the way.
Yeah,
right?
it wasn't closing
Yeah.
all the way.
And
So then,
it wasn't fully wet out. We knew that we didn't have enough epoxy.
yeah, but we put it together because we're like, this is the instructions.
Yeah.
Then while it's clamped, we're rewatching the video, and then he says in one of the things, take the mass of your carbon and multiply it by 1.25.
Yeah, so you want to mix excess epoxy to make sure you have enough to fully wet it out, and in the end, your part will come out roughly 60-40 as long as you have the right carbon. You just want to
Yeah.
make sure you have enough epoxy that the excess epoxy is going to come out from the sides like it did after we remixed and
So you
added
calculate your carbon and then just multiply by 125%.
Yeah.
And that's how much epoxy you make,
Right.
not 40%. But we were lucky enough. We thought this stuff would have been hard, but we split open the mold, poured it back in there, kind of mushed it in.
Yeah.
And
It worked out.
it didn't, I mean, you could see there's some porosities here.
Yeah.
But I think we could, go over it with one coat of epoxy or clear.
Right.
And it won't be too bad. So we finished pouring the second mold. It's drying up now. We did a couple of changes. We made the perimeter a little smaller because we think we just wasted some material, and then we made them thicker so that way the last one broke apart at the edges. This one hopefully won't have that problem. So like we said in the last video, we want to make up an engine stand to mount the engine, and we're going to need a transmission in there to get the starter and all that stuff mounted with the bell housing. So what we're making up here is that engine stand. We got our transmission. We're going to be running an MT82 6-speed manual. I don't know if we've ever said before our plans, but the plan is manual transmission, and we kind of have some experience with the MT82. Diego built one for his Mark 8, so we're going to experiment with an MT82 behind this much power. We'll see what happens, but that's the train we're going to be running. So we took out some dimensions. We got these camshaft legs mounted, bolted up to the block. So we're going to be using this and making a frame around here, the 3 points to pick up those two, and then these transmission mounting points. So we cut up the metal. We got some casters. We got caster and then some wheels in the front. So we're going to be just doing a triangulated frame here. And then those two legs will sit on here. We'll have the wheels welded out there and then a caster wheel in the back. So we're going to go ahead and weld these up.
All right, so we're moving along with the engine stand. So we got these welded up yesterday. These are the rods that the radiator is going to sit on. We're going to add some reinforcement legs from here to the camshaft so that'll be nice and strong. And we kind of mocked up this panel here in the back. So we're going to add another reinforcement rod and tie it to probably this mount here. But this is where we're going to mount the ECU, the pedal, gauges, all that stuff. So we're going to try and finish that up today and get the engine off, paint all of this, make sure it's nice and not rusty. And then the engine stand will be done. So let's keep working on this. All right guys, well we finished painting the engine stand. We just hit it with some cheap silver or gray. Now we're gonna let this dry before we put the engine back on, but let's jump over to fuel so we can get that done.
So for fuel, we got a PTFE fuel line kit. We're running PTFE so it's safe with the 85. And we got dash 6. We're running 2 lines from the regulator down to the fuel rails. So we gotta make these guys up to work on the engine stand so we can fire this thing.
All right guys, so we have the engine stand completed. You can see here we have it set up just how we're going to run the engine once we get the cams in. So we have the ECU mounted, we have our pedal mounted, our bulkhead connectors, our air fuel gauge, and also a fuel pressure regulator. So everything is ready. The fuse boxes, as you see back here, it looks nice and tidy. So everything is ready. Now we're just waiting for camshafts, and we do have an update. We spoke to Bullet yesterday, and the cams are now at heat treat. So they have 2 more steps before they're back. They gave us a time frame of about 2 to 3 weeks. So hopefully that stays that way, and maybe by next video or maybe the next one after, we'll have this thing started for you guys. All right, so let's talk about the exhaust. So we're using the stock exhaust manifold from the 2-valve engine. This is just to start it on the stand. Once we get the engine and the transmission in the vehicle, we'll create our own headers and make all that. But for now, we're just using the stock manifold to start it on the stand. We also got our starter bolted up. So this is a starter off S550. It's a lot more compact than the starter that came with these engines. So that'll help us with package in the future. All right, and if you haven't noticed already, we painted the timing cover, we painted the valve covers, and we also made forged carbon coil covers. So the timing cover, we painted silver. It's all cleared. It actually looks really nice. We were a little unsure about the color, but it looks really nice. I'm actually thinking we might finish other stuff this color as well. So we'll get to that later. The valve covers also came out really nice. We painted them in this very special color. We're not gonna give away what color it is yet, but it'll make sense to you in the next couple of videos. And the big thing really for this video, we spent a lot of time getting this coil covers to work. This was our first time ever trying any kind of forged carbon part, and they actually came out really well. To create these coil covers, we made our own molds out of epoxy. We used the welded coil covers we created for this engine. This is also just a layer of epoxy over them, so it's a little wavy. We probably still have to sand it and clear it to make sure it's nice and clear, but they come out really well. So we're actually thinking we're gonna make some molds and start creating some V8 coil covers. So if you guys are looking for forged carbon parts, let us know and we'll have some for you in the future. And one last thing we're gonna be working on is gathering all the bolts, all the nuts, everything. You can see we're still using the old ones just to hold them in place. We're gonna gather all the bolts and nuts and send them off for zinc plating. So those will look nice and shiny next time you see them, hopefully. All right, so let's get back to our list, knock off stuff we did. We don't really have much to cross off because a lot of this is really depending on the camshafts, but let's see here. We figured out exhaust. So like I said, we're using the stock manifold to start the engine, so we're just gonna cross this off.
We're making headers for the real.
Yeah, again, we're gonna make headers when we get it in the car, but right now there makes no sense to make headers because we have no idea how much space we have, and that'll get done later. Cleaned up and finished valve or intake valve covers and timing covers, so we got that done. All that's ready. So really the next step is waiting for the valves, or sorry, waiting for the camshafts so we can get everything done. Hopefully we can get it all done in one video and get this thing started because we're really excited to get it started. I know you guys are as well. So that being said, next video, we have a really big announcement for you guys. It's probably the most asked question on YouTube right now. What car is this engine going in? We have the car, we've set this for a while now. We were just waiting for the right time to reveal it. And that right time is next video. So if you don't want to miss that, don't forget to like, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.